I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting. I'm gonna start off with roll call, so everybody answer up. Tim Foose,
Present.
Ted Gibbs,
Here.
Dr. Jerry Riley, not here. John Lindgren,
Here.
Martin Ford, Robert Gregory,
Here.
Abigail Mayberry,
Present.
Victor Contreras,
Here.
Doug Snouts,
Here.
Daniel Heidemann,
Here.
Mike Taylor,
Here.
Marcel Camp Gibhart, Randy Schwinn, Randy?
Here.
He's here. Jill Bennett,
Here.
Jackie Nolte, Stephen Fonville, James Forcell, Doris Stubing,
Here.
Doug Spillman, Steve Ramsey,
Here.
and Willie Aguero. Willie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 14, so we do have a quorum. Okay, just some housekeeping rules. Whenever y'all make a motion, please say your name in the motion, and whoever seconds it, please say your name and that you second. When I call for the vote, I'm just going to call for anybody if they oppose. If you oppose the motion, please state your name and that you oppose the motion. So that way we can try to get this meeting moving along pretty steady and not have to do a roll call every time we call for a vote. Is there any questions on that? If not, we'll go ahead and move in to item number 2, which is citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens that need to be heard at this time? None to be heard. We will go to the oath of office.
Is now joining.
Okay, on the oath of office, this is going to be for all the trustees that have been reappointed and the new trustees. I will swear everybody in, so once we get through with this, if you could please sign it and get this back to Canyon Regional as soon as possible, I would appreciate it. So for the trustees that have been reappointed and the new trustees, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that you have not
Lou Rosenberg.
or indirectly paid,
Is
offered,
now
or
joining.
promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or the thing of value, or promised any public
Is now
office of
exiting.
employment, or the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which you were elected, or as
Unknown
in
participant is now
secure
joining.
your appointment or confirmation wherever, whatever the case may be. So help you God. Say
I do. I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
I do.
Okay. Do you
Randy Schwinn, I do.
All right. For the second part, do you solemnly swear and affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of office of trustee of the Canyon Regional Water Authority and will be the best of your ability to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the state of Texas, so help you God.
I do.
Randy
Hail
Schwinn, I
Mary.
do.
I do.
Okay,
I do.
Albert, if you want to make an announcement for people to mute their
Yeah,
microphone and speak.
okay, now that we've got everybody sworn in, we're getting a lot of feedback from the microphone, so if you could turn your microphones to mute and only turn it on whenever you need to speak. Like I said, we're getting a lot of garbled noises in here. So the next thing that we need to do is the election of officers. And I will be turning over the first part of that to David to do the presidency. And I will now turn over the election of officers to David Davenport.
Okay, how we're going to do this is we'll take
Unknown
nominations
participant is now joining.
office of president. We'll leave nominations open until either somebody makes a motion to close the nominations or move for someone. So is there a nomination for somebody for president?
This is Tim Foose. I'll nominate Albert Strelzik for president.
Are there other nominations for president? Anybody want to volunteer for the office of president? If not, it'd be appropriate for a motion to cease nominations. Means we only have one candidate. Move that Albert be appointed by acclamation.
Move that Albert be appointed by acclamation and cease nomination.
If there is no opposition to that, we'll just consider it to be approved. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank y'all for y'all's vote of confidence. We'll see if we can keep the coronavirus from spreading. Now we will be taking nominations for vice president. Are there any nominations for the vice president?
Tim Foose.
Mike Taylor, I nominate Tim Foose for vice president.
Ted Gibbs, I second that.
We have a nomination for Tim Foose for vice president. Are there any other nominations? If there is not, the chair would entertain a motion that nominations cease and Tim Foose be elected by acclamation.
I make that motion.
Victor Contreras.
Victor Contreras has made the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Mike Taylor,
Sure.
second.
Okay, we have a motion by Victor Contreras and seconded by Mike Taylor that nominations cease and that Tim Foose be elected to vice president by acclamation. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. Tim Foose is reelected as vice president. I now open up the floor to nominations for treasurer. Are there any nominations for the treasurer? Mike Taylor is presently the treasurer.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Mike Taylor as our treasurer for the coming period.
And who are you?
Tim Foose.
All right, we have a motion by Tim Foose. He nominated Mike Taylor. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no nominations, is there a motion that nominations cease and Mike Taylor be elected by acclamation to treasurer?
I'll make that motion. It's Tim Foose.
We have a motion by Tim Foose. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Victor Contreras.
We have a motion by Tim Foose, a second by Victor Contreras, that nominations cease and Mike Taylor be elected by acclamation to treasurer. Are there any oppositions to this motion? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries and Mike Taylor is the treasurer. I now open the floor for nominations to secretary, and Doris Stubing is presently the secretary. Are there any nominations from the floor?
This is Mike Taylor. I move to elect Doris Stubing as secretary.
We have a nomination that for Doris Stubing as secretary. Are there any other nominations? Is there a motion that nominations cease and that Doris be elected by acclamation?
This is Abigail Mayberry. I'll move that.
I didn't catch your name.
Could you repeat your name? We had some feedback there.
I'm sorry, it's Abigail Mayberry.
Okay, we have a motion by Abigail Mayberry that nomination cease and that Doris be elected by acclamation. Is there a second?
Second by Randy Quinn.
Is now joining.
Is there a
Randy
second?
Tim Foose, I'll second that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we have a second by Tim Foose. The motion is that nomination cease and Doris Stubing be elected by acclamation to secretary. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries and the election of officers is complete. The president is Albert Strelsick, vice president will be Tim Foose, treasurer is Mike Taylor, and secretary is Doris Stubing. We will now move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. Is there anything to do with the, if you're not making a motion or need to speak, could you please mute your microphone because we're getting a lot of feedback here. Thank you. The consent agenda, is there any concern with the consent agenda?
Mike Taylor, move to approve as presented.
We have a motion by Mike to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Robert
Second
Gregg
by Tim
seconds.
Foose.
We have a motion by Victor Contreras, or a second by Victor Contreras. The motion is by Mike Taylor, seconded by Victor Contreras, that the consent agenda be approved as presented. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 6, consideration and approval to appoint 4 members to the Alliance Regional Water Authority. David, who are presently there?
The current members that we have appointed in the past is Chris Betts, Chris is with County Line Special Utility District, Alberto Ramos with Kenya Regional Water Authority, Pat Allen with Green Valley Special Utility District, and Mike Taylor with Crystal Clear Special Utility District. We've tried to have a cross-section of the entities that are participating in the Alliance project. There's attached on page 25 through 26 a letter from the Alliance explaining the appointments. They're looking for just appointing 2 members. Currently, the 2 that are up for reappointment or replacement is Humberto Ramos and, Mike Taylor and Pat Allen. So either reappointment of those individuals or motions to somebody else.
Okay, is there a motion to reappoint Mike Taylor and Pat Allen to the Alliance Board, or does y'all have somebody else in mind?
Tim Foose, I'll make a motion to appoint Mike Taylor and Pat Allen to the board.
Doris Stubing, second.
Okay, we have a motion by Tim Foose, seconded by Doris Stubing to reappoint Mike Taylor and Pat Allen to the to the Alliance Regional Board. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 7, the report of the operations and activity for Canyon Regional Water System and litigations, and better words, this is a report from all our different deals that were in the packet. Adam, is there anything you need to add to your report?
I have nothing to add, but willing to answer questions.
Are there any questions for Adam on the operations report? Hearing none. Humberto, is there anything you want to add to your report?
No, sir, but I'll take questions.
Are there any questions for Humberto for the meetings that he's been attending? If not, next is Graham. Graham, are you online, and do you have anything to add?
I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me. I do not have anything to add to my report.
Yeah, we can hear you. Are there any questions for Graham? All right, none. The next is Trihydro. Is there anything y'all want to add to y'all's report, David or Pat?
This is David. I have nothing to add, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Trihydro? LNV, do you have anything y'all want to add to y'all's report?
This is Marcus Nizer with LNV. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for LNV? Utility engineering, is there anything y'all want to add to y'all's report?
This is David Kniper, and I have nothing additional to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Is there any questions for utility engineering? LAN, do we have anybody from LAN online?
Yes, this is Janine. I don't have anything else to add, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for LAN? This is for our FEMA grants and other issues. If not, Trey, did you log in?
Yes, I'm here.
Is there anything you need to add, or what? Is there anything you want to report on?
I'll just report on a couple of items. We had a construction committee meeting late last week, so we talked about these items in detail. But just on a summary basis for the board, we have settled the Waters claim. It's over and done with. The paperwork's been signed, sealed, and delivered. We ultimately paid them $100,000. We settled for about $500,000 less than what they had demanded, even as far as their last demand. So we're proud of that. We're working on the preload case. We're working on amending our pleadings in that case. As far as Cunningham is concerned, we terminated the contract with Cunningham. It looks like we may be headed for a conflict with them. The ball's in their court. We've also made a claim against their performance bond, and so we're waiting to hear back from the adjusters on the bond claim. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Do we have any questions for Trey? Okay. Lou, is there anything you want to report on?
Albert, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I have nothing to add to the report. I'll be glad to supplement as needed.
Anybody have any questions for Lou? Okay. Let's move on to item number 7 or number 8, which will be a report from the construction committee. As Trey mentioned, we did hold a construction committee meeting last week via teleconference. The data for the pilot study on the new ceramic filters here at Dunlap has been compiled and submitted to TCQ. If the TCQ accepts the data, the plant will be rated at 14.4 million gallons per day. The work on the two ground storage tanks here at Dunlap has been completed. There was a small leak on the first tank, and that has been repaired. The second tank is curing, waiting to be filled. So hopefully it does not have any leaks. As Trey mentioned, we have settled with Waters Construction, and that's been closed out. We agreed to pay them $100,000 plus the retainage, and the retainage was $307,073. Again, the letter has been sent to Cunningham contractors and the insurance companies that this contract has been terminated. We are still waiting for a trial date for preload. The adjacent tract of land next to the Hayes Colwell water treatment plant has been purchased, and the owner has 6 months to move off. Our next committee meeting will be June the 8th, and depends on what the governor says. Either we'll be doing it in person or doing it via teleconference. Is there any questions for the construction committee? Not? We will now move on to item number 9. This will be a consideration and a possible action regarding requests by Canyon Regional member entities to Governor Abbott to authorize payment deferral and or forgiveness of payment obligations to the State Water Development Board, river authorities, and groundwater conservation districts due to the decrease in member entity revenue resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. I believe this was brought up by Mike Taylor. Mike, is there something you want to add or talk about on this subject?
I wanted to put it out there for members. We're getting calls from state representatives, from county judges, from all kinds of people, state senators, about what we're doing for their constituents, forgiving water bills and not doing cutoffs and not charging late payments. And yet nobody stepped up and done anything for the rural water entities. Nobody's forgiven my payments to the Edwards Aquifer Authority or to the groundwater districts. We're crafting a letter to go to Governor Abbott and say, hey, you know, we're constituents too, and how about doing something for constituents like us, because we're getting a lot of pressure to do things for your constituents who are our customers. And I just wanted to put it out there and see what everybody thought about maybe seeing what the governor says he's going to do for us.
Mike, have you seen an increase in people that are not paying their bills? We've been kind of keeping a track on that, and we really haven't seen the number decrease. We haven't run the totals for this month yet, but the only problem we've had is we've caught a customer stealing water from us, and we disconnected them, and we had the county commissioner call us up and tell us that we needed to reconnect him. And even though he was stealing water, they were trying to twist our arms to get their service reconnected as fast as possible. That's the only conflict we've had so far.
Mike, Mike, this is Victor. I agree with you on that letter. We have seen an increase in Marion of people not, since we won't cut off, not paying the bill or actually being a little farther behind. So I think it's a great idea if we could maybe get something from the state for the entities that are doing this.
I agree. I mean, we can ask.
Hey, Mike, will you be willing to come up with a draft letter that we can send out to the other entities so that way they can just put their letterhead on it and mail it off to the governor?
I got our lawyer working on it right now. I just didn't want to put it out there for everybody to consume if there wasn't an interest in it. But if there's some interest in it, and certainly when we get ours drafted, I will make sure it gets distributed to all of our member entities.
Yeah, that way each entity has the opportunity to make the decision if they want to forward it on or not.
And it's worth it. I mean, you know, they don't understand if they cut, you know, denying us revenue is our lifeblood, and it doesn't stop any of my payments. And to have a state representative and a state senator and the PUC taking complaints from customers and making me answer questions as to why I'm cutting people off is kind of crazy in the middle of all this.
Well, from what I can understand, the PUC understood that, and that's why they didn't make it mandatory. They just kind of made it as a suggestion because one of the commissioners made the comment supposedly that if they mandated that the utilities not turn people off for not paying, that these entities would not be able to collect money and they would start going belly up, and they do not want the water authorities and districts and water corporations going under because of something that they did. So that's why they made it as a suggestion, not a mandatory do not turn off and do not add penalties. It was now TCQ, on the other hand, I think has made a strong suggestion that we do not add penalties and do not turn off for delinquency until this COVID mess is all cleared up. But yeah, if you get that letter out to all the entities, then the boards can make their decision to send it to the governor and forward it on to anybody else they deem necessary to get it.
Be glad to do that. I think it's two-faced for the PUC to say it wasn't mandatory, and yet they're taking complaints from my customers and making me answer 20 questions before they deny their complaint.
Yeah, they've got a tightrope to kind of walk because of the fact they want to support the governor, but yet they don't want to cause any harm to any of the districts or water purveyors out there. So it's kind of a fine line. If they make us do it, then they also have to do it to whoever we pay our bills to also, which that's going to be kind of hard to do. Is there any other discussion on this from any other entity? Are there any other questions to this matter? Okay, well then let's move on to item number 10, which is announcements and recognitions. I do want to thank everybody that did take the time to call in, and so we could have our meeting tonight so we didn't miss 2 months in a row. Hopefully next month we won't have to do this again, but it's going to depend on what happens in the next couple of weeks, but I think we might have to do this one more month. Are there any other acknowledgements or recognitions that we need to do tonight? Are there any items that need to be put on the next month's agenda of the Board of Trustees?
The only thing this is Victor Contreras. I talked to Adam about it, about the getting a lot of calls from at the city level about the water and you know, the algae bloom or the turning of the water. I think I just kind of want to update on that as we go forward. Because
okay, we will have that on next month's agenda to respond to what actions was taken by Canyon Regional to try to offset the taste and odor problem because of the algae bloom here in the river, which kind of caught them by surprise, but we'll have that on next month's agenda. Is there any other items that need to be put on the agenda? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Tim Foose, motion to adjourn.
Victor
Is there a
concurs. Victor concurs, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries and the meeting is adjourned. Thank
you.
everybody for calling in tonight and stay safe. And hopefully we'll see you next month.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Thank you, Albert.
We adjourn.